Hi, this is Melissa Connolly from CalSWEC, and you've joined me for a recorded webinar overview of the Assessing for Key Child Welfare Issues classroom curriculum, which is part of Common Core 3.0. So what we're going to do in this recorded webinar is go over the curriculum components and give you an overview of what the curriculum includes. But I'm going to start out by doing some orientation to the materials and where they're posted on the internet for you to look at more closely. Do some acknowledgments and thanks to the people who've contributed to the curricula. And then I'll turn it over to my colleague Amy Rogers, who will walk us through the classroom module. So all of the materials and a feedback survey that you can access to give your feedback are posted on the CalSWEC website. And I can't put a live link in the recorded webinar, but I have the link written out here. So if you want to take a minute and write it down, http calswec.berkeley.edu, Common Core 3.0. You can also Google CalSWEC Common Core 3.0, and it's the first result that you get in that Google search. So let me go to that web page just so you can see where the materials are posted and what's available to you. I do want to say as we go through this webinar, there will be a couple of pauses as I switch back and forth between materials or as I make a note of something that I want to say or give feedback about. And I hope you'll be able to overlook those little pauses. We don't have a way to pause the recording and splice things together, so we just have to go through the process. This is the CalSWEC website webpage for Common Core 3.0, and it's currently devoted to a stakeholder review process that you're participating in. We are reviewing the assessment-related content for Common Core 3.0, which includes 3 e-learning modules, 4 classroom modules, and 2 field activities. All of the materials are posted here, along with some links, for example, my email. If you have a question or you need help accessing any of the materials, you can use that link to send me email, mconnolly@berkeley.edu. There are also some links here to some live webinars you can participate in if you want to participate interactively and give feedback as we give an overview of the whole block. So these 90-minute webinars will give a very brief overview of all of the components in the assessment block. They're all the same. You can join one of them, whichever one works for your schedule. They will also be recorded and posted for you to review if you can't participate live. We will have posted live webinars recorded webinars just like this one that we're recording right now here in this section. So once we're done with these recordings, the links will be here for the webinars reviewing each of these curricula. And then starting on Monday, January 5th, this link will be live to access a feedback survey and share your thoughts about the content. Finally, as we scroll further down, you can see that our written materials are available, posted on the internet, so you can open them, print them out, and review them more closely to give feedback at a more close level, looking at these content pieces separately and looking at the whole spectrum of the assessment block content altogether too. Today we're going to be looking at the Assessing for Key Child Welfare Issues classroom module, which includes a trainer guide, trainee content, and a PowerPoint. We're going to focus on the trainer guide, and then at the end of going through the trainer guide, we'll also open up the trainee content and take a look at it. But I do really encourage you to download these full documents and read them so that you get the full picture of what's included in the classroom module. This classroom module is a day-long module, so it goes into some detail about assessing for child welfare concerns in families that are struggling with domestic violence or intimate partner violence, substance abuse, and mental health issues. It's intended to be the last module that people take in the assessment block, so we expect that they will have already been introduced to a critical thinking framework and to the STM assessment tools. So you'll see that this module includes references to and use of the STM assessment tools, but doesn't include training in how to use them. That's because it should come after the Assessment Skills Lab classroom module, where those assessment tools are trained and introduced. Before we click to open the trainer guide and start going through the module, I want to just say thank you to some people who have contributed to the development of these curricula. The first person I want to thank is Lisa Molinar from Shared Vision Consultants, who did the bulk of the content development for these modules and provided that content to me and Amy Rogers, who you'll hear from in a minute. And Amy and I went through and reviewed and formatted and clarified and tried to make sure that the content is in a format that people can follow and use for these all the curricula for Common Core 3.0. I also want to thank the Content Development Oversight Group, who have been involved in the content development from the beginning, taking us through the learning objectives, and who have also reviewed the content at a preliminary stage before it got to where it is today. Our CDOT group includes representatives from all over the state, including Margot Hinson, Irene Becker, Soledad Caldera-Gamage, Joanne Pritchard, Jennifer Cannell, Leslie Zeitler, Donna Toolman, and Michelle Brienz. I also want to say a special thank you to a group of safety organized practice trainers and practitioners who came together with me a couple of weeks ago to review these materials and give feedback about how we could be inclusive of safety organized practice within the modules. So I really want to thank Jean Norman, Joanne Pritchard, Betty Hanna, Veronica Pipers-Jefferson, Andrea Sobrato, Irene Becker, Teresa Solomon-Billings, Jennifer Cannell, and Kim Jardina for helping us with including safety organized practice in the Common Core modules. I want to say also that this curriculum is one classroom module out of many in Common Core 3.0. And it is expected that before people come to this training, they will have already had introductory training related to intimate partner violence, substance abuse, and mental health, as well as trauma-informed practice, teaming, and as I said before, structured decision making. So as you review it, you may feel like there's missing information about trauma-informed practice or substance abuse, for example. Please be aware that those content pieces are included in the foundation block or in other assessment block curricula. So it is expected that the trainees will already have been introduced to those concepts. So I guess the next step is for me to introduce my colleague, Amy Rogers, who is an MFT and a board-certified art therapist. She's also the training chief for the State of Vermont's Economic Services Division, and she has been extremely helpful in helping us get these curricula ready for your review. And she's going to walk you through the trainer guide, and I'll interject comments every once in a while. Are you with me, Amy?
I'm here.
Great. Thank you. So I'll just click on the trainer guide here from the web page and open it up and enlarge it so hopefully people can see it. And we will just start going through it.
Great. So here's obviously the table of contents. I guess I should go page by page. Acknowledgements for the Common Core. Talks about all the people and organizations that Melissa's thanked as well. Some general information about Common Core, as well as how the core was developed with public funds. There's information here about the components of the Trainers and Trainees Guide. So we have the learning objectives, which you will see in a little bit, which break them into 3 categories: knowledge, skills, and values. There's also the agenda. It's a simple agenda, which breaks it out into segments and times for each segment. There's also a suggested lesson plan, and this lesson plan is much more detailed than the agenda, which we'll see. The evaluation protocols for each training, as well as the activities. The trainings are very activity-based, which gives the trainees a lot of hands-on experience of the content. There's also the trainer supplemental materials, which goes over, which contains the different materials that trainers might need in addition, the references and bibliography, and then the materials checklist, which we hope people check ahead of time so they make sure they have all the materials they need before the training starts, and then any posters that are related to the training. The tips for training the curriculum. So this is some important background information for the trainer. It's strongly recommended that all the trainees complete the foundation block and all the other 100-level assessment block content, as Melissa mentioned. We'll talk about key points for trainers, which we'll see at the end of most of the segments of the training. In the appendix, that's where you'll find all the key information about the SDM policies, information on substance abuse, mental health, and intimate partner violence. So trainers should be very familiar with this content prior to training this module. And then it also mentions here that some of the content was developed by the NCCD and the Northern California Training Academy, particularly information around the safety organized practice approach.
I want to say a word about the evaluation protocols. The macro evaluation team and the content development oversight group are finalizing evaluation plans for Common Core 3.0. So we don't have the evaluation protocols included here for stakeholder review. More information about that will be available once the macro eval team has made its final recommendations, and their recommendations have been approved by the RTA directors and CWDA and CDSS.
So here is the agenda. As we said, it's a very simple agenda. So this is an all-day training, so it puts breaks and lunches in there, as well as times for each of the segments. And here are the learning objectives that are spelled out under knowledge, skills, and values. And then the detailed lesson plan. So on the left-hand column, you'll see the segment, the amount of time for each segment, what time period of the training, and then activities related to that segment. And then on the right, it gives you a kind of an explanation of what that segment is about, as well as the PowerPoint slides and the corresponding learning objectives for each segment.
I want to make a point about PowerPoint slides in these Common Core 3.0 curricula. And there's a big difference, I think, between the current Common Core and Common Core 3.0 in the number of PowerPoint slides. We've really tried to reduce the number of PowerPoint slides as part of our shift from a lecture-based training to an activity-based training. So instead of having trainees sitting with their eyes focused up on a PowerPoint, we really want trainees to be sitting focused on each other or focused on materials that they're reading and reacting to and thinking about. So those of you who are used to our PowerPoint heavy current versions, you'll notice that there are many fewer PowerPoint slides here.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, it makes the PowerPoint not the focus of the training, but the content and the interactions and the conversations the focus of the training.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the goal.
Yeah. So here's segment 1, assessing child safety in the context of violence. So this is like the part of the introduction for the training. What the trainer will do here is review the agenda, establish agreements, and then there's a video to be shown called Through Our Eyes, Children, Violence, and Trauma, an introduction. And there's a link there. I would suggest, of course, opening this up ahead of time to remove any technical difficulties if possible. The trainees will then share one word about the video as they introduce themselves.
And we'd love to have reviewers click the links too and watch the videos and give us your feedback about the video as well. It's really meant to kind of set the stage for the impact that violence and trauma can have on children.
Segment 2, assessing safety in a home with intimate partner violence. In this activity, the trainer will discuss key information related to intimate partner violence, including exposure, short and long-term effects, and the impacts on development. You can see that on the slides on the right. Each table group of trainees will then review the handout on assessment that's in their trainee content and work together to answer a series of questions related to intimate partner violence.
So we're really trying to get them to focus on what parent behaviors they need to see as they're assessing for intimate partner violence in a home, to be able to know that that violence is happening and that that violence is creating a safety concern for the child. And then what kind of protective capacities or acts of protection the social worker needs to see in a home to mitigate the potential harm from intimate partner violence. And they have this content about the effects of violence and the content from the SDM policy manual, and they're supposed to kind of synthesize that information to think about what they'll be needing to consider once they're out in the field.
So segment 3, assessing safety in a home with substance abuse. So for this activity, the trainer will lead the trainees through a discussion of factors related to safety and substance abuse in a home. And as in the prior activity, each table will then review the trainee content on assessing safety with substance abuse and then work together to answer a series of questions related to this subject matter.
It's very similar to the previous activity. It just focuses on substance abuse rather than intimate partner violence. Yeah.
And then segment 4 is pretty much similar as well, except it's assessing safety in a home with mental health concerns. So the same thing, the trainer will lead the trainees through a discussion of factors related to mental health and safety, and then the trainees will review content and answer questions at their tables. Segment 5, we're introduced to the Torres family. So here the trainer, the title is called the Torres Family Safety Mapping. The trainer will instruct the trainees to read a vignette and then facilitate a discussion, asking the trainees to create a genogram and use chart paper to document what they're worried about, what's working, complicating factors, and strengths. All of these are located on the safety map handout that's in their content. And then ultimately the impact on the child of all of these factors. The trainer will then direct the trainees to sort the list of statements into different categories. Next, the trainees will scale the safety in the home, and then the trainer will facilitate a discussion of what needs to happen next. In this section, we do have key points for the trainer. So as we mentioned those at the beginning, key points are really important pieces that we want to make sure that the trainer mentions and throughout the course of the segment. So for this section, the key points include describing and including factors of intimate partner violence, mental health, and substance abuse from the previous activities.
So it's really up to the trainer to make the connection between kind of the more academic activity in the earlier segments to this application activity with the family, so that trainees can see how that work that they did previously links to the work that they'll do with families.
Segment 6 is the Torres Family Safety Assessment. Here the trainer will ask the trainees to complete the safety assessment tool at their tables once they're given a vignette on the Torres family. One of the people at the table will be the voice of SDM, meaning that they'll have the SDM policy manual available to them, and they will refer to it throughout the course of the conversation for definitions and help the group, give the group direction as needed throughout their discussion. After processing this experience, the trainer will then lead them in a discussion about the safety concerns and the use of authority in conducting an assessment. There are key points for this section, which include a discussion around what CPS is to the community and the use of the authority with CPS. Segment 7 is the Torres Family Additional Interviews. For this activity, the trainer will ask the participants to read the next section of the vignette and then use this content to work in groups of 3 to role play an additional conversation in addition to what the vignette already tells them between the social worker and the child using the Safety House worksheet. And you can see the Safety House in the PowerPoint side there. The trainer will explain the Safety House tool and explain the steps and questions in each section. This is also located in the trainee content. The trainees will then shift roles until each person at their table has played each role. They'll then share their experiences with the larger group. Segment 8 is the Torres Family Risk Assessment. Here the trainer will ask the trainees to complete the SDM risk assessment tool for the Torres family that they've been reading. They'll report out and mention the risk factors that they see as a group. The trainer will then involve them in a discussion about the social worker's task to assess the impact of poverty, trauma, and mental health on the family. There are key points for this section, which include explaining the impact of severe neglect, deprivation, and trauma on children. Segment 9 is trauma assessment and collaboration. For this activity, the trainer will ask the participants to read the next section of the vignette about the Torres family and discuss what the social worker should do related to the problems of one of the children at their tables. This conversation will then branch out to include how to support this family in their recovery efforts. Section 10 is trauma and assessment. Here the trainer will instruct trainees to read the trauma and assessment handout that's in their trainee guide and work together to answer the questions on this handout. They'll then discuss their answers and thoughts related to the content. There are key points for this section, which include information about screening for trauma history and assessment and seeing things through a trauma lens when interacting with families. And then segment 11 is the wrap-up for the day, where the trainees will discuss their thoughts about the training and what they've learned. And then, of course, our materials checklist, which is very short for this training. Also in the trainer information is the SDM policy manual content that we mentioned that would be helpful for one of the activities in the appendix. And I believe there's an appendix 2, yes, which is the safety in a home with intimate partner violence and other handouts for the activities. And here are the answers for the trauma and assessment questions. So the trainees have that questionnaire in their guide, and here are the answers for those questions.
Great. I think that's all. Oh, and our bibliography. And again, I want to comment that these bibliographies that are included in the stakeholder review are not finalized. As we get feedback from stakeholders, we will be doing revisions and final editing before these are presented in pilots in San Diego in April, and then rolled out across the state after that. So the bibliographies are not totally finalized yet. I want to go just take a look at the trainee content for this one. Just give people a glance at it. So we have the introduction to core and the curriculum introduction, an agenda, and the learning objectives for the trainees. And we also have some content related to intimate partner violence, and then the worksheets that they use for answering the questions related to assessing safety in a home with intimate partner violence. I really hope that reviewers will have time to look through these documents more closely, so you can see what content we're sharing with the trainees on these topics, on intimate partner violence, mental health, and substance abuse. We have the Torres family vignette, which involves a family struggling with issues related to mental health, substance abuse, and intimate partner violence. We have a safety map worksheet, more information on the vignette, our safety house worksheet, and safety house instructions. Further information in the vignette, some information about screening, mental health screening for Randy, and service providers and team building. And then our trauma and assessment vignette, content and vignette. It's a case study. And then the questions for the trainees to answer about that content, to get them really thinking about the trauma lens in working specifically with mental health, substance abuse, and intimate partner violence. So I think we also have added an appendix here for the trainees, which has that same SDM content, which is just pulled from the SDM manual, and suggesting the impacts of intimate partner violence on safety, the related child protective capacities, and the related caregiver protective capacities for each of these three key issues that affect the families that social workers will be working with. And I think that's all, but let me just keep scrolling through. Oh, it's our bibliography, and that's all. So that covers the content for this module, which is intended to be a slightly more advanced process for practicing assessment skills, working with a more complicated vignette, and a family with some significant concerns related to intimate partner violence, mental health, and substance abuse. Do you have anything you want to add, Amy?
I think we did a very thorough job.
Good. Me too. Thank you very much. So I'm going to just take us back to our beginning slide and in the recording. Thank you, everybody. Please do feel free to email me if you have additional questions or trouble accessing the materials. My email is mconnelly@berkeley.edu. Thanks.